This is a conversation with Priya Vijayarajendran, CEO of ASAP, who previously held leadership roles at Microsoft and IBM. Priya shared how ASAP Generative Agent is transforming contact centers by handling customer interactions autonomously and improving service quality. I love how she stresses the importance of defining the right problem and keeping humans in the loop to ensure trust and compliance in AI systems. Great. Thanks, Priya. I appreciate your time and thanks for joining the Humans on AI podcast. I loved your journey. I just have to say, this is one of the things I want to say before we start. Yeah, Priya, you've got a very interesting, you've been working mostly in corporate like Microsoft, IBM. Then you did like you're the CEO of ASAP, this startup. However, you didn't start up as a CEO, you started as a CTO. So would you like to share a little bit a bit of the background and journey until this point?
Flor, first of thank you for having me. Very nice to meet you, and I appreciate the opportunity to share the journey, both personally about myself and the company. Yes, you're right. I used to identify myself when I introduced who's Priya when I was working at SAP, Microsoft, and IBM. It's been a privilege for me to be part of these amazing companies. I used to introduce myself as an entrepreneur in this company. So if you're a builder, if you're a maker, being a technologist, you're always building things. And I think I'm a good example of doesn't matter you are under a pretty established community or an enterprise community like SAP or IBM in that time being the forefront of AI, much ahead than many of the cloud providers and technology providers today. And then Microsoft really doubling down on cloud. Doesn't matter if you're in any of these companies, but you're always building things, you're making things, you're in the bleeding edge of technology, you're trying to create what could make an impact. And that's pretty much what I have been. And intentionally, I knew that I was coming from a corporate environment to a startup environment. And I carried that builder DNA with me. I wanted to bring the novelty. Even after 20, 30 years, what keeps you going is the sheer bliss of building things. So that's why I was like, oh, this problem is amazing. What is the best problem to solve between a human and a human? You pick up every day, you wake up and you make a contact center call. I'm like, if I can go disturb, and that's 500 billion interactions in a year. So economics of scale is amazing. It's a perfectly primed AI problem. I just could not resist not being part of this. That's how I came into ASAP as a CTO. And these larger companies taught me just not the technology part of it, but almost how it's aligned to being a change in the enterprises. So having that business sense and having building technology in a very thoughtful way gave me the aspects of beyond a technologist what's needed to be a CEO. So I got an opportunity to lead the company and bring forward the vision. And here I am as the CEO of ASAP. Yeah.
Congratulations. You get a very like an amazing journey. So, what leadership lessons have you learned from your previous roles that you're still using here? As can be successes or mistakes. Like I think, like I also think, like most of the times we learn more from the mistakes than successes. So, yeah, anything that you would like to let us know.
Yeah. Great question. Many of us as technologists, or a lot of us, as much we are obsessed about the solution. Is this the best model? Is this the lowest serving solution in the market, etc.? Equally, I learned in a very hard way and in a very practical way the problem itself is equally important, not just the solution. Because what is the problem that we are trying to solve? How big of a problem it is? What is the real pain point? I'm someone who absolutely believes a well defined problem is all a halfway defined solution is. So typically, as a technologist, I've learned and I've carried from my almost 27 years of experience with enterprises that problem has equal importance more to the solutions. So that's one part of it. And second is even currently doing my role, technical clarity is not just enough. It's about the narrative clarity because people should understand what the solution is all about. And the personal journey for me is translating this. I want to use generative AI or I want to create a next best voice low latency model. That's a tech ambition. Translating this into a human motivation and mapping it to what is the impact, and even translating to the why this matters for the business, it's one of the hardest and most rewarding part. And I learn on it every day. So these are things I carried along through my experiences and tried to stitch the best version of it that what I get to execute today at ASAP.
That's great. So, will you mind sharing a little bit what it's ASAP? How do you implement AI in your startup?
Yeah. So ASAP is a AI native customer experience platform. It's a cool sentence. What it means is all of us, we choose to interact with our brands. By brands, I mean it could be your PG&E, electricity, or your telephone company, or your airlines company. So the way we interact with the brands. And in spite of so much on AI and innovation happening, the way you call your internet provider is still the same. Floor is kept on a call waiting for several minutes, and you're transferred twice, and your call got disconnected, and then you'll have to start it again. But yet you are going to a chat experience. It is not the same as the call experience. You still live and go through this pain. That's what ASAP is solving. Every interaction is the primary medium that the brands get to know us as people. So it's the customer centric, true customer centric experience platform, which brings AI in every step of the way. So imagine that Floor never and ever had to wait for an agent. Imagine Floor is talking to somebody who knows you. It's as it feels like you're knowing the brand and you're talking to somebody who knows exactly. Even the greater thing which we are pushing for now is what if Flow didn't have to call? When the internet is down, the company says, hey, there is an outage. It's going to come back in 2 hours. Or thank you for using the promotion floor. You're getting this new discount. So the proactive servicing, that's exactly the platform. And we work with the largest enterprises. Even though you may not be a direct user of ASAP, I'm very certain that many of us are already using ASAP because we are live with the largest enterprises that we use today in the market. That's pretty much what ASAP does. Yeah.
Great. So I also know that your flagship product is Generative Agent. So I understood it's a bit kind of automation and solves complex problems with customer interactions. But yeah, do you have any use cases or something that we will in like how it works in real life, let's say?
Yeah. Quick question. So, in a contact center, much after I started working with ASAP, the role of a contact center agent is not easy. We think I'm asking a simple question. Why are you putting me on hold? Are you answering somebody else? And the behind the scenes, what happens is the person is expected to remember so much of the context. The person is expected to remember a 30-page document, a section number 4 and the line number 10 to be able to give you an answer. The person is going to 4 other systems to collect the information and apply some rationale and judgment. That's what typically happens. And the labor is the significant portion of this problem. 80% of the contact center calls. So today, just to give you an idea, when you make a call to your telco provider and asking them about to explain your bill or anything else, they incur minimum $10 just to service you. And 70% of this is labor. And yet they cannot fulfill the number of agents to be able to serve hundreds and millions of us. So generative agent is a complete autonomous agent, which is custom built for every enterprise, for every scenario, powered by a low-code platform. So generative agent picks your call, it knows you, it authenticates you, it understands you, it thinks and it rationalizes and it responds. So you're removing the bottleneck of a human agent capacity to be able to do it. Second is simple example you asked is you are on the flight from Boston to San Francisco. Your flight got delayed and it's an urgent scene. It's about having loyalty with that brand because you're very frustrated. You're missing your plane and you need to get onto a call center agent. Imagine you're calling up, generative agent picks up the call. It already knows, Flor, I understand you're leaving, but I could see that the flight is getting delayed. I have an alternate flight option. you'll be mind blown because you anticipate in your brain it's going to be a 30-minute conversation, but your problem is solved literally in less than a minute by generative agent. If you had a first class upgrade through your miles and some special scenarios, it can go to get it authorized by a human agent behind the scene. You're never transferred. So your handle time of the call is literally the shortest time that you have ever experienced, and you didn't have to explain the entire context. That's a real life example. It's already live with a couple of our airlines customers. So you are already experiencing this flow. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. That's actually a very good example because I travel a lot. And I was thinking about actually about my next flight. I'm like, oh God, that's actually very interesting. Okay, Priya, building AI systems requires a lot of different roles and talent, right? So, how do you identify, develop, and retain people who can straddle those domains, engineering, data, ethics, so on?
Yeah. We talk about how AI is going to, take away jobs or evolve jobs. It's the most important question that we are addressing. But AI certainly has transformed all of our jobs, right? This is one of the fascinating moments for me as a technologist is how different data is coming together is allowing us a different perspective to solve the problem. So in that sense, generative AI technology allows me to infer something much easily, which would have been layers of programming in the past. So, people who are working on the data layer, they are evolving in terms of not just talking to a database, but they are getting used to talking to an LLM. That's one. Second is people who have done lines and lines of code on writing services and APIs and SQL. They are writing prompt and context engineering. And people who've been doing application coding, how beautiful the UI should look like, they are getting comfortable using cloud like code productivity tools to be able to bring it faster. So every role has changed, evolved. So I look for talent which can take advantage of this AI capabilities and tools and frameworks so we can actually create a more evolving technical stack. That's how we keep it current and always evolving because the pace of innovation is so unprecedented, Flor. And experts are also changing. The specific role, I'm a SQL developer, could have changed, but you being a data engineer, that has evolved actually. So we do have competency groups, I would say, or domain expertise which evolves, and we invest a lot on in-house training in terms of what's the latest and greatest, and that's how we keep ourselves current. And we do internal hackathons and others where we are forcing ourselves in a time-bound way of bringing the best and understanding what's outside in. And internally, we embrace open source quite a bit because that's a great thing which has happened to tech communities, so to keep ourselves current. And we contribute to the open source community as well. So
That's great. Would you mind telling me which open source do you use and do you trust to use? Because there are more and more companies are making their products or their software open source because it's kind of better, or I don't know. I don't know if it's better or not, but yeah, it's happening more and more. So would you mind just letting us which ones do you trust?
there is a long list of it. I'm sure I'll miss few of them. Like for example, PyTorch when it came through, we've been avid users of it. And then Spark as an example on the data side of the house. And we use a lot of today's open source LLM testing frameworks that we contribute to. So that's another example. I'm giving specific areas, so I'm not affiliating more to this. And on the CI/CD, continuous development and DevOps practices, we use a lot of open source framework as well, part of it. So that way we can all be current because SysOps to DevOps and LLM ops has transpired so quickly. And so talking with those open source communities help us to get upgrade our frameworks much faster. And there are some programming frameworks that we've used on some of the UI programming frameworks as well, which is completely open source. So there are in every layer we have embraced a lot of open source frameworks. Yeah.
Great, thanks. So, Priya, AI in contact centers, it handles sensitive data all the time, right? Oh, that's what I understood. So, how does ASAP approach trust, governance, planability, and robust auditing in product systems. Because like everybody now, it's very afraid, but at the same time not aware of all your data. Data is, for example, I was talking with someone not long ago, a week ago, something like he said that data is the new oxygen. It's everything. So you guys need to have data, right, to be able to solve the problem of your customers. So how do you handle that trust and the ethical part of AI?
The very important part of it, and big scaled enterprises, it is not an afterthought for them. It is the first thing they ask. And by the examples I shared, we operate in real customer environments. So transparency, compliance, and security, it's option. It's not an optional thing for us. It's how the product is built. We call it as a glass box foundation of sorts, Floor. What by that I mean is any of the software that we produce has to be PII and PCI compliant by all means. But that is important information and compliant information. And we do interact with LLMs, and we do provide private containerized environments for regulated industry because we do work with financial services and insured tech companies. We are also high trust certified, where especially when you're dealing with healthcare companies, you have some healthcare specific data as well, right? You have in-house redaction services. So what it means is, if, for example, I'm talking to you or I'm talking to somebody which says Benjamin, age 34, lives in so and so, when we are actually finding information through an LLM, Benjamin, age, the information is not going to the LLM at all. So we redact the information. So none of the customer's proprietary data or the customer's consumer's proprietary data ever reaches. That's one part of it, right? Second is explainability. To your point on, this is where we've put a lot of R&D effort. When you're talking to an autonomous generative agent, as much as you are amazed, oh, is this not a human? It's a generative agent. There is a decision tree of every step of the way explained why generative agent is saying the things it's saying, what information it had access and why it's making that decision, where did it learn to make that decision. So every step of the way is logged and traceable and explainable. This is very important. Third thing is, we have very exhaustive reporting in terms of what a human agent did, what a generative agent did, what was the outcome it did, why it made a decision, what are the things it's learning things of it. So every step of the way, there are tons of safety layers and compliance layers that we've introduced into the product. And other than this, there is a lot of external injection, prompt injection as we call it, in terms of anything which can penetrate into this, anything which can introduce bias to this. We put a lot of effort in while we build the product.
Okay, got it. So, Priya, looking a little bit towards the future, is there any trend? Let's call it trend, right? Because now it's everything's trending, AI, technology, innovation. Is there a trend between AI or the human machine collaboration that you're most excited for?
Today, AI is capable of very many things, but as people who use AI, we are getting ready with what's the process, what's the data, how much I can trust it. I think today I can comfortably say for both of us, right, Flora, you wake up and you definitely use one of the LLM based searches today. In maybe literally 1 year ago, your typical internet browser, search browsers were the one you use, but today it's changed and you do search for information. So you are using it as an assistive capability. So I certainly believe that as much AI needs to be trained and managed and given context and set some boundaries and guardrails. I am definitely I'm a tech optimist actually, and I believe that AI will lead many of it. We won't feel like we are losing the autonomous city. We won't feel like we are losing the control. But yet we feel like there is a lot of simplicity. Simply, it elevates us to be bigger problem solvers, strategic thinkers. I totally believe in it. A simple example is how I search information has fundamentally changed. Earlier, I used to say just what are the top 3 restaurants in San Francisco? I would change it. But now I ask deeper questions. My curiosity is very different. And I'm asking, oh, who is putting XYZ in a vegan restaurant? I can go and ask this reasoning thing. Have we ever heard reasoning in finding information? So the trend that I'm seeing is AI just came along and the co-piloting happened. Humans and AI is still behind. We decide when we want to infuse AI or not. I think the transformation about AI leading many things for us, so actually we can elevate ourselves, will certainly happen. And voice was not the primary medium in the things that what we used to do in the past. It was all digital medium like searches and images. With the voice technology, I am very with lots of enthusiasm and waiting, because it kills language barriers. It brings people together. So there will be a voice will be a primary interface. Like you won't sit in a laptop and search for information or look for only digital like experience. I think we're going to be casually talking and figuring out things or interacting with the most complex systems in a voice interface. So voice market is going to go and explode quite a bit. And yeah, AI leading us rather than we still sprinkling AI will change suddenly.
Yeah, it's like I talk with a lot of founders in AI, right? And it's everybody's kind of, yeah, something's gonna happen, but do you still believe that humans in the loop will be important, even though that it will be way the technology and innovation will be even more fascinating than it is right now?
I certainly believe, which is why human in the loop is one of the differentiators of ASAP's platform. There will be things which will be pretty hard, regardless of the maturity of technology, to teach. That's because that's how humans will always be humans, right? There is nothing you can put that decision making, because there is this empathy element. If you have the perfect record and you need to be exempted, there is a human element in somebody saying, yes, I'll cancel this ticket and I'll give you a complete refund. It may not be in the books, it may not be in there. So there is a human element, especially in the servicing space or in other discoveries. So there will always be human in the element. Not simply because we don't trust the systems, because that loop of how humans can continue to train AI will be essential for years to come. Human in the loop is not just like humans are going to assist AI. Yes, that's a practical application need, but we will always be assisting AI to get more context and to learn to feedback. So that's why human in the loop is a fundamental design and a importance in any software that we produce that we must have. Yeah.
Great. Priya, if you were to start a new AI venture today, what would you do differently? Because you've got such a long journey and a lot of experience. So I guess that now, with all the mistakes and things that you've done, I guess that you will do something different, right?
I'll certainly be close to a shade of this problem, which is AI solving human to human problem. That's what it's so desirable about ASAP Floor, because AI could solve them. And I came from SAP. I've solved product lifecycle management problem. I've solved supply chain problem. I've solved logistics problem. I've done accounts payable and dunning and a lot of this complex enterprise process. And but this is a real human to human problem, because we are bringing the aspects of human seeing, listening, understanding, thinking and planning and rationalizing. So this is the best mimicking of what an AI could do. So certainly I'll be in the same problem space, no doubt about it. And the aspects are, if you were asked me, hey, what would have been changed, is even more bolder on some of our bets actually, because the technology pace of innovation is surprising. That includes me. If I'd known this is going to be the trajectory of this, I would have gone even more faster, actually. That's the advantage. If you're like Priya, take two, if you're starting today, I would produce the product in the market in 3 months, because there is a lot of maturity and how we architect things would be much, much different. Now I know it. I'll certainly be in this space. We would do even more things on the Y side of the house just to bring more user adoption. And yeah, and I'll use more tech stack that I know that it's already matured since maybe 2 months ago, what I see in the market.
That's great. Thank you very much, Priya, for your time. Thank you very much for joining the Human on Air podcast again. Thank you.
Thank you, Flor. Pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Humans and AI podcast. We are here to spotlight the people making AI more human, one story at a time. See you in the next episode.